Hello everyone, I'm here today with a flip-through video. This is part 3 of Philly. This is the final part of the album, and this last third actually ended up being pretty big, bigger than I anticipated, so it's a bit more than what was in the middle section, but that's okay. And I also left off with a full page featuring Van Gogh, which actually is on this side. I decided to change them because the color worked better with what I ended up doing on this layout. So I'm actually starting here with this layout. I loved these acrylic embellishment pieces from Bramble Fox, and I had some Impressionist style paper that really worked with the colors in this painting, so I used that. This one you've already seen. After we left the museum, we went to the Hard Rock Cafe. We tend to do that in any city that has one, just to be total tourists. So we went here. This is probably the worst one I've ever been to in terms of service and food, and even, I hate to say it, the musicians that were playing were not that great. It just wasn't a good experience. So I did chronicle that here. This was probably the best experience, seeing a shirt from Adam Levine in Maroon 5. So then on to the next day. Our first stop of the day was the Independence Visitor Center, because we were doing a lot of the major tourist attractions like the Liberty Bell and the Constitution Center and Independence Hall itself. So we had to stop here to pick up our tickets, and then they have a huge gift shop in there. So we figured we might as well go in there and take a look around, plus get a drink and a snack. On this side of the page, you can see the outside area for the Liberty Bell before you go in. And it was fairly early in the day, but there were already people lining up to get in there, so it's a good thing we went early. And I didn't do a whole lot here. I have an acetate embellishment, some phrase labels, and that's it. I wanted to keep it pretty simple. And then on this side, I have some more of the photos in there. And because I had been to the Liberty Bell before, I didn't spend nearly as much time looking at all of the exhibits as my friend did, because actually some of the stuff that was in there had not changed since I was there last time, even though it's been a while. So I felt like I could zip through. So I don't really have as many pictures from all of that, but I did showcase some. And then I also bought this postcard. I think I got this in the Independence Visitor Center shop. I'm not positive, but I think so. But it matched well with these photos, so that worked out too. And then on the back, I put an enlarged 5x7 photo of the Liberty Bell. And I just got lucky, you know, since it wasn't that crowded, I was able to get up pretty close, zoom in, and get a really detailed shot, and I love it. And then over here, we were lucky enough to have a kind stranger who offered to take our photo together, which was nice, and then we did the same. I always return the favor if I can. And so we have those shots plus more of the bell, which looks gorgeous in that light. I'm very happy with that. Put in some brads that I had, and at first I felt like this was a little empty, but now I'm glad I left it alone because there's plenty of other stuff going on here. And then on this side, we walked across the street to Independence Hall because our tour was at 10:20. And they say line up early because you have to go through full security now and all this stuff. So we wanted to make sure that we were not late. So we walked across the street. This is the outside on the side of it. And then I just thought the sign was kind of cool, showing where all the major attractions are, because this is pretty much the center of historic Philly. A lot of the attractions that people want to see are located around this park. And then over here, I had an enlarged photo that I wanted to use, and I did this on my own with just a stencil, and I used 2 inks to layer on there, and I think it turned out well. And then this is from the back of Independence Hall looking up at the tower. If you have seen National Treasure, this should look familiar because they go up in that tower. And then over here, I just wanted to journal a little bit about our guide. Both times I've gone on the tour, it's been great, but this guide was super passionate, included even more stuff that I didn't hear the first time, so I was grateful for that since I was doing it for the second time. Just some basic pictures there. And then here I wanted to focus on all of the beautiful architectural elements that are in this building. I mean, look at that. And that morning light was coming in, and it was just gorgeous, so I wanted to make sure that I featured that as well, with some little doilies off to the side. And then it was on to the room where the documents were actually signed. That's pretty cool. So you can see this in the movie as well. So if you've watched that, this is where they're standing when Nicolas Cage says, the last time this document was in this room, it was when it was being signed. That's the room. So I wanted to highlight these photos as well. It has a very green theme. And then I have a photo flip here with some other journaling. And then I actually picked up this postcard too. And you can see Washington's chair is right there. It's the same chair that you see right here, still in the room. And then here we are in Independence Square, so we're outside after, just checking out the different statues and buildings that are out back. And so we wanted to see that as well. I didn't do a whole lot here. I kept it really, really simple, which is fine because if you really want to squint, there's a lot to read there. Then we went back across the park to the Constitution Center. I kept the map here so that it can be opened still and you can see all the programs that were running at that time. And on the back, I put 2 photos of us outside. They have this little frame thing out there and you could just have your photo taken. So again, we had a stranger there, asked her to do it, and then we did one for her. It was great. And then my ticket here with just a little bit of stamping. Kept this simple too. This I loved. I got to use my Hamilton stamps. And I just made this myself. I spaced it out as best I could, picked 3 colors that would match, and luckily it came out pretty well. And if you're talking Hamilton, you have to have the stars, right? So I had to add gold stars. And this is more on the Hamilton exhibit, specific to the duel that led to Hamilton's death between he and Aaron Burr. And that's a huge part of the musical too, so I wanted to feature that. I used some quotes from the musical there. And then I didn't do a whole lot here either because I'm guessing that anyone who's interested in history who's going to look through this is actually going to read the stuff, and that's enough. And then after that, we had a quick walk over to the Betsy Ross house. It's pretty close to there. And I didn't realize quite how small this is. There isn't a lot to do there. And there were 2 flights of steps that were very narrow and steep. And both my friend and I have issues. She has knee problems, I have back and hip problems, and we just did not feel comfortable doing that without thinking that we were going to be in pain. So we chose not to do that. So we only got to see like the main floor. That's it. But I did want to highlight some of the photos I got, and I love this patriotic sequins mix that I have. And so I use that with my fuse tool to close up that pocket, and it matches both sides. Here's the rest of those photos, plus some journaling there. And actually, I should say, these 3 cards all came from the Project Life app, and I think it's called Americana, the kit. So if you like those, that's where I got them. After the Betsy Ross house, again close by, we had a short walk. We decided to go to Christ Church Cemetery. That is where Ben Franklin is buried. And when I went previously, I could see it like through the fence, but I didn't really go in and explore. This time we had the time, we weren't in a hurry, we wanted to see what else was in there, and so we really took time to explore, and I'm glad we did. It was super relaxing. You're smack in the middle of the city, but it doesn't feel like it. It's very quiet in there, very peaceful. We quite enjoyed it, and there are lots of other graves that are interesting in there, so I encourage you to check it out if you're in Philly. And here I just did some basic pocket cards, a little washi. This one, I was a little disappointed. I used this craft piece of paper for this, and I didn't realize that when I did my splattering, because the texture of the paper is different, all of the droplets sort of spread out. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I didn't want to redo the whole thing, so I left it, and I think it looks okay. It just adds to sort of the rustic, grungy look of it all. From there, it was then on to the Museum of the American Revolution. And I don't have a ton of pictures here because I had it by the time we were about halfway through this, and then I continued on to about 3/4 of the way through it. And I finally said to my friend, I'm tapped out. Like, I cannot hold any more historical knowledge in my head. I'm overwhelmed and I just need to go. And she felt the same way. And so we didn't actually make it all the way through, but I did keep a brochure here. We did do the whole Irish exhibit here about how the Irish fought on the side of the British and some personal stories there. So we did that. We did some of the artifacts from the Revolutionary War on the American side. So we did see some of it. We just couldn't do it all. So I highlighted those as best I could. And then this is one of the last things we saw, and I liked it because of the colors. First of all, it was a change in color from the rest of the stuff, which was nice. But then it has the famous saying, no taxation without representation. So I wanted to make sure that I showcased that. And so it's a nice color mix here, the sort of dark aqua turquoise color and the yellow. And I did have a flip here as well with a nice quotation that was on the wall. And I had this sticker and it was perfect. Like, grateful that these men decided they were willing to fight for what they believed in, or we wouldn't have the country that we have. Good or bad, however you feel about that. And then after that, it was late. It was 2 o'clock and we were starving. So I think that's part of the reason too we needed to get out of there, is because we needed to eat. And some locals told us to try this sub place that was around the corner from where we were walking. And we did, and it was awesome. So glad that they heard us talking, because otherwise we probably would have walked right by it and not tried it. I just used some chipboard here, a little sticker. Didn't do anything too exciting. All I needed was a 3x8 insert. I didn't really need more than that. And then I have a brochure here from a little popcorn place that we spotted too as we were walking, and we did each get a bag of flavored popcorn. I got the sour cream and onion, and it was fantastic. After that, we were done with our historical stuff for the day. We knew we had to get back to Reading Terminal. If we got to that stop and walked south, we would be going to our apartment. But if we walked up and over just a little bit, there was something else we wanted to see other than the market. And so we had to walk that way anyway. And that's where we went to the Needlework Shop. We had heard about it before we got there. We wanted to make sure we checked it out. And that was a very fun stop. It was kind of fun to do something that had nothing to do with American history. It was just a hobby that we both enjoy. And so we spent quite a bit of time just meandering around the store and looking at everything and checking out their patterns and chatting with the ladies that were working the shop. It was a really nice last stop of the day. And then by the time we got back from that, we had done so much walking. We were so tired. We both said, you know what, we're not even up to going out to dinner. Let's just go pick something up, like from a deli nearby or a supermarket, and eat at the apartment. And so that's what we did. We found one that was nearby that we could walk to quickly, just a few blocks. And so there's the flip up there. You can see what I got. And then I just did some quick journaling about that. And then you can see that's my dinner. And there's part of the popcorn that I bought earlier in the day. And as you can see, look how chunky this is getting. This is quite huge. And then that was the end of Saturday. So then Sunday morning we got up, we went right to the Seaport Museum. And again, I had been there before, but my friend had not. So I don't have a ton of pictures from here because I don't feel like I needed to do that a second time. I still enjoyed it, of course, but I just didn't need all the photos. So here's a nice one from the front door. It's a beautiful entrance there. And then I love just looking at model ships. I don't know why, but I do. And so I took these photos and wanted to highlight those as well. And I just used some basic stickers that I had and didn't go crazy with the embellishments here. And then this is still the Seaport Museum, so it's a lot of photos from this area were about how the Navy was formed, which if I learned that when I was there before, I didn't remember it. And so I found that very interesting. So I wanted to make sure I got some of those as well. And then I have a flip here with some general info. I loved this ship in a bottle. And then this is also from that Americana set on Project Life. And then I just have the other photos. Again, minimal embellishments, just a tiny sticker there, a little sticker here, and it's good to go. And then on this layout, this is one of my favorites because I made a pocket down here on my own using my fuse tool, filled it with sequins, sealed it shut, and I love that the colors match what's on this page as well as the next page. So I just really enjoy how that all came together, and it really didn't take all that much work. And then our last major stop was Magic Garden. When I was in Philly the first time, I had no idea this was there. So this was a totally new experience for both of us. And I would say, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I would say it's something that I need to do once, and that's it. So when I go back to Philly, I don't need to do this again, unless I'm with somebody different who wants to see it. But otherwise, I think I'm good. But I did enjoy it. It's definitely a unique art form. By the way, this is a patch that I bought in the gift shop. Yes, you're supposed to sew it on something, but I chose to use it as an embellishment. And then here you can just see a lot of the different mosaic work that's been done. And I kept the embellishments minimal here as well because these photos are so incredibly busy. I don't need to have a lot of other stuff going on. And here I was able to use another page that's all 2x2s, which is hard for me, so I feel accomplished that I was able to get that done and have it look decent. Here's the other side, just more close-up photos of the different sections of artwork that were there. And I like how funky it is, and I tried to use funky things with it, just things you might not expect to be put with it. So I like that. This one was a little bit more traditional just because I felt like it had a very soft color palette, a very pastel palette, and I wanted to match that with what I used. And I just happened to get lucky that this was a card from a Citrus Twist kit that said all of this, but then under here it says Citrus Twist Kits. Well, I didn't want that on there, so I had to find something to cover it up. So I was able to do that, and I was happy. And here's more photos from in there. This one, I just wanted to make it sort of groovy and funky because that's how this feels. So when I found this little die cut of a VW bus, I had to use it. And I just got lucky that the color matches too. And then at the end, I wanted to showcase two special areas that really caught my eye. And so I blew them both up to a 5x7. I put the metallic finish on it from Nations Photo Lab, and they each got their own page. So this is the first one here, as you can see. Got a full 6x12. I just did some stickers that matched and some chipboard hearts. And then on this side, this is actually fabric. It's hard to see, but it's fabric with adhesive on the back. And then I had this huge acrylic heart. I've had that a long time. I didn't know what I was going to use it for because it's so ginormous. And it works out that the color matched just perfectly. And then a couple other acrylic pieces, sticker, little extra ephemera piece down here. Can you see that there? My camera might be cutting it off. There we go. And then we were done at Magic Garden. Then all we had left to do was go pick up our bags, catch the train back to the airport, which we did. Nothing too exciting there, but I just wanted to document our station. And then our plane left at about 5:30, if I remember correctly. And we knew we weren't going to get a whole lot on the plane, so we figured we better have something in the airport. So we split these Parmesan fries and, of course, Philly cheesesteak. Gotta have that. So we had that while we were waiting for our flight. Just some stickers here and a little label. And then here, again, I wanted to keep it simple. There's not a lot to say. It's obvious we're flying home, so I just found some stickers that would work there. And then at the very last, our flight tracker, but then I wanted to just give a final note of how I felt about the trip, that I had a great time. It's even better when you're with a good friend who can share it with you. So it really was an excellent trip. That's the end of this album. As you can see, it ended up being quite large, and closing it will be a challenge, but I'm super pleased with how it turned out. And I'm also just really glad that it's done. So thanks for sticking with me through this.